And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata. And it's been a bit of a minute, but a lot of things are going on right now. Least of all is the big news going on in Major League Rugby, which a little bit of behind the scenes magic. I usually do multiple videos on one day. We're filming this Wednesday night. It was the same day that all the news broke loose. And again, I'll get into that video last because I wanted to get through what I was planning on doing originally, which is do a video on the USA Eagles International Tour going on just starting next week. And then, of course, the PR7 Championship preview. So I wanted to get that all the way. But man, the news that just broke out, so a little bit of a spoiler for what's going on in the third video that I'm doing today. It's definitely been a busy 24 hours in rugby in America. So, again, as always, we aren't just focusing on Major League Rugby. We are focusing on competition with our USA national team, as well as competitions going on in the States. So today, like I said, I do all my videos in one day. So tonight, Wednesday night, I'm going to do a video focusing on each of those aspects. First, with our USA Eagles, with the USA Eagles International Tour of Europe in 2023, preview done by yours truly, Rugby411. The next couple of weeks, the USA Eagles team will be touring Europe to face on three. On paper at first, I was kind of disappointed with this lineup, but now that I've done a little bit more looking and doing a little bit more research, this is actually a very tough and a really good series of matches for our very young Eagles group. And it's a good preparation for what we are starting as our first year on our road to hopefully a Rugby World Cup berth in 2027. So, in the next couple of weeks, USA Eagles, we are ranked number 18. We'll be taking on number 19 ranked Romania, number 16 ranked Portugal, and then finishing off with the big game against number 11 ranked Georgia. All these games will be taking place in our European opponents' respective hometowns. So it is going to be even tougher for our USA Eagles as they will not have the home field advantage. All these games you can watch on the Rugby Network, which is awesome because that's absolutely free. A great way to keep track of not only USA Eagles competition, but of course, any action that you missed of this last 2023 Major League Rugby season, which was really great. Congratulations again to our MLR champions. Unfortunately, not the Seattle Seawolves that a lot of people were hoping for, but the New England Free Jacks, who did a really great job in that game, a phenomenal performance all year long. They proved me wrong as I gave them a very early prediction of being, I think, 5th place. So they made me eat my words on that one. So going back, USA Eagles competition, this international tour. The international competition window for rugby, for those of you who don't know, we have two of them. One of them is usually around springtime, around March, April. The other one is closer to the end of summer, fall. This is right now for this year, because it's a Rugby World Cup year, basically the final preparations for most of the teams who are going into the Rugby World Cup that's going to take place in September in France. This is their last little bit of warm-up to get prepared for that. Unfortunately for our USA Eagles, we missed out on that competition, but we are facing three teams that are all in this year's Rugby World Cup, and there is some intriguing storylines involving these three teams, which I'll go into a little bit more detail, and why this is, like I said, actually a very good and tough competition for our USA Eagles, which we'll be looking at the lineup in just a couple of seconds, or a couple of minutes. Is a very young, unproven, but like I said, a really good test for a lot of these young Eagles who are possibly going to make their very first caps this tour. And again, like I said, this is preparation, not for this year's Rugby World Cup, but for 2027's Rugby World Cup. This is a good chance for a lot of these young kids to get their boots cut, their teeth cut into this, and getting a taste of international rugby competition. So, head coach of the USA Eagles is Scott Lawrence, who was just promoted from interim head coach to full position head coach. He has a very good coaching pedigree. He was, ironically enough, the former head coach of the Rugby Atlanta team in Major League Rugby, as well as a coach for Life University and the Under-20s America team, finding success in both of those fields. Championships for Life University, a championship tournament win for the Under-20 USA Eagles when he was coach, as well as he was the assistant coach to Rugby ATL back in 2017 before being promoted to 2020 as the head coach, and then 2022 was his last tenure. Now, he announced his 30-man traveling roster, and I'm going to put them up right here. It is a very, very mixed group of tested veterans and a lot of untested. 16 of the 30 have never suited up for a national USA Eagles competition yet. So you'll see a lot of people earning their very first cap this tournament. So again, a very, very untested team. But again, this is a good chance for a lot of them to finally get their really first good taste of international competition. We'll go through the lineup right now. Nate Osberger starting you off with playing for the San Diego Legion this last season. He has 36 caps under his belt. Dom Basak, this is going to be a kid. If you watch the Under-20 tournament, and again, I don't blame you if you didn't. Unfortunately, the USA Under-20 team did not do super well. All the games are on the Kenya Rugby TV. I did a preview video of that. You can watch a Kenya Rugby TV YouTube channel. But at least USA, even though they ended up on the bottom of their pool, they did end up being at the very bottom of the competition overall. They did end up beating Hong Kong in their last game. A very dominating performance against Hong Kong. So congratulations to the Under-20 team. Again, a great chance for a lot of those young kids to get their first taste of international competition. Dominic Bissang from St. Mary's College in California. He was the captain and arguably the ace of the Under-20s team. So this is a great, great call-up. He earned this spot on the traveling roster. No guarantee that he'll suit up in any of the 3 games, but he is traveling with the team. So there is a possibility that he can have his very first cap as a USA Eagles. Then you also have Tommaso Boni, who is actually an Italian player that plays for the Zebra team in Italy, uncapped as well. Nate Brakely from the New York Ironworkers, 30 caps under his belt. Luke Carty, the reliable boot of Luke Carty, formerly of the LA Guiltinis, now with the Chicago Hounds. He has 10 caps under him. Ruben De Haas, formerly of the Saracens rugby club in London, no longer playing for them. He has 28 caps. Cam Dolan, of course, the most prolific name currently in the USA Eagles. He has 63 caps. He has the most caps out of any active player. Definitely will be looked upon to lead this young group. Christian Dyer, a dynamic player from the Houston SaberCats, 11 caps. Dylan, the Butcher Fawcett, who is currently now the owner of the most tries in Major League Rugby history, from the New York Ironworkers, 22 caps as a USA Eagle. Lawini Futi, who was phenomenal this last season for the Seattle Seawolves. Caleb Geiger of the New York Ironworkers. Sam Gala of Dallas, rookie who just earned Rookie of the Year credentials from Major League Rugby. Phenomenal player out of Cal Berkeley for the Dallas Jackals. And Vilani Helu from the Rugby ATL. All those players not capped at all, so they may get their first cap this rugby tour. Jack Escaro, Old Glory, has 2 caps under his belt. Mika Kruse, the very fast winger for Utah, 5 caps. Line Lafu of the American Raptors, which the American Raptors is more of a crossover group, focusing purely on players who performed in other sports throughout their career, finally making that transition to rugby. Line Latfu is one of those players. Tavita Lopetti, another phenomenal player from the Seattle Seawolves, who has 7 caps. Peter Malcolm, his fellow Seattle Seawolves player, uncapped, so he might get his first cap this rugby tour. Chris Mattina from Chicago, who was phenomenal as a fullback. could possibly earn his first cap as an American player. Nick McCarthy from Leinster Rugby Club out in London, also 0 caps. Paul Mullins, Utah, 30 caps. Greg Peterson, formerly of the Newcastle Falcons, a London rugby club, has 39 caps. Just to show you the distance between Cam Dolan and everybody else, Cam Dolan has 63 caps. Greg Peterson has 39. That is the third most of active USA Eagles players. So 63 the most, 39 third. Bryce Campbell, who is usually the captain of the USA Eagles, unfortunately is not making this tour due to, I believe, injury. 44 caps under his belt. He's second of the most current active USA Eagles. So again, just shows you how much more experience Cam Dolan has than practically anybody else. Like I said, this USA Eagles team will be looking to Cam Dolan a lot for that leadership. Paddy Ryan, phenomenal Irish player that was just a beast as a prop in Chicago. He could earn his first cap as a USA Eagle. Big Joe E. Taufete, formerly of the LA Guillotines, now the Houston SaberCats, 35 caps under his belt. He has currently the second most tries of any USA current Eagles player with 23. He's only 3 shy of the top try scorer, which was Valle Antoni, who has 26 tries. So Joey Taufete could possibly break that record and become the most tries scored by any USA Eagles in the history of American rugby. Thomas Tuabao from Utah could earn his first cap as well. Jake Turnbull of Seattle. Luke White, phenomenal Australian player. Luke White, formerly the LA Guillotines, now the Chicago Hounds, could also earn his first cap on this tour. Mitch Wilson from New England Free Jacks, your reigning defending MLR champions, 3 caps under his belt. And then Bailey Wilson and Tajaki Young Yen, both Utah Warriors, both could earn their first cap as a USA Eagle. So like I said, 16 players with no caps. It is almost unprecedented to see such a young team. But again, considering this is basically a way to start building the team for the future, hopefully for the World Cup in 2027. Not a bad way to start. And again, we'll start focusing on this lineup. Like I said, when I first heard about this tour, Romania, Portugal, Georgia, I was a little disappointed in the competition, but man, looking into it, it actually is going to be a tough road. None of these games are gimmies. All 3 teams, as I mentioned before, all made the Rugby World Cup this year. First of all, we'll start with Georgia. Georgia is the heavy hitter. Georgia, if you don't really know, when you look at the overall hierarchy of rugby, there is what we call the unofficial Tier 1 rugby teams, and there's 10 of those that includes New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, Argentina, England, France, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, arguably Italy. All 10 of those teams are stars of 2 of the top premier competitions in rugby, the Rugby Championship and Six Nations. They are also 3 of those teams, England, New Zealand, South Africa, have all won Rugby World Cups. So they are the cream of the top. Recently, Japan has been considered unofficially a Tier 1 nation as well. So facing any of those nations, they are the top of the competition. Georgia is on that cusp of being very close to a Tier 1 nation. As I mentioned before, they are ranked number 11. They're actually higher than Japan right now. So they have been, by a lot of people's accounts, a team that a lot of fans have been clamoring, just like Japan, who have been made officially, unofficially. I always say unofficially because this Tier 1, it's spoken of, but there is no official Tier 1 ranking. But Georgia has been one of those teams that a lot of fans have been wishing to be included in this Tier 1 category. Georgia is going to be the last team that USA faces on this tour, so that's going to be a huge, huge litmus test for this USA Eagles team. Georgia made the Rugby World Cup by winning the European Rugby Championship, which is their third time that they won that. On their way to winning that championship, they beat Romania and they beat Portugal. Romania made their way into the Rugby World Cup by beating Portugal 37-27, earning them the third place finish in the Rugby Europe Championship. Spain was second. Unfortunately, Spain, and there's a huge controversy for this if you didn't know about it, Spain was found out to have been fielding illegal players who did not have the right to be considered Spain nationalists. So they were basically disqualified for being allowed to be in the Rugby World Cup. So because Spain finished second in the tournament, they were disqualified. So the third place team, which was Romania, was able to move up a spot. Now Portugal, and then Romania is going to be the first team that USA plays against in Bucharest on Saturday, August 5th for the kickoff of this tour. That's this Saturday. Now, Portugal, here's where the storyline gets interesting. Portugal made the Rugby World Cup in the repechage tournament, basically the last chance tournament, which was composed of, I think it was 4 or 6 teams that weren't able to qualify originally, and this was their last chance to make it. Portugal made the tournament, the Rugby World Cup, by beating the USA in their final game, and it was only because Portugal, at a last-second penalty kick, tied. They didn't even beat USA. They tied USA, but because of the overall point differential, Portugal scored so many points against all the other teams in the competition, they were able to make the Rugby World Cup. It was a heartbreaker if you saw the game. So this is going to be the rematch, USA against Portugal. Granted, if USA beats Portugal, it doesn't change the fact that Portugal made the Rugby World Cup. But this is going to be a very, very important game. So all these games are going to be taking place, like I said, in Europe. So it's going to be even harder for the USA. But you can watch them all on the Rugby Network. So once again, let's go over it. USA, currently ranked number 18th, goes against number 19 Romania in Bucharest. That's going to be this Saturday, August 5th, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time kickoff. This is all Pacific Standard Time. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time kickoff. Then we go to Friday, August 11th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard kickoff. USA goes against Portugal on that really important rematch over that qualifier game that Portugal just barely. They didn't even beat USA. They tied USA to make the World Cup. That's going to be played in Algarve, home to one of the biggest Rugby Sevens tournaments in Algarve. And then the last game, the really, really tough one, against number 11 ranked Georgia in the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, Saturday, August 19th. Early start time, 7 a.m. over here on the Pacific Coast. All these games, like I mentioned, can be watched on the Rugby Network, which is absolutely free. Thank you, USA Rugby, for allowing these games not to be on a paid service, but to be on a free service like the Rugby Network. And again, guys, Rugby Network app, not only can you watch USA Eagles games, you can watch every game, including the Major League Rugby Championship of last season's Major League Rugby season, all for free. If you don't catch these games when they're on live, they'll be on demand almost maybe a couple hours later. But this is going to be a great series of games. Again, none of these games are gimmies for USA. I think USA has a good chance against Romania and Portugal. The Georgia game will be tough. If USA comes within striking distance of Georgia, I think that says a lot about this USA team and the direction that they're going to go under head coach Scott Lawrence. But yeah, I feel this is going to be a really exciting tour because, like I said again, it gives a good chance to spot and showcase a lot of young talent. It gives a lot of young talent their first chance of getting international rugby experience as a USA Eagle playing for the USA team. And again, this is just year one of the build on our way to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. It's a shame we didn't make it this year, but you're going against 3 teams that did make it. So if there's any way to just see where USA is in the hierarchy of rugby, this is a great way to figure it out. So again, all these games absolutely free and live on the Rugby Network. Highly recommend you check them out, especially just to support the USA team and to see some future superstars who could possibly be making their USA Eagles debut and then work their way to playing for the USA Eagles in 2027 for the Rugby World Cup. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, we got a lot more coming up. Just after this, I'm going to be filming 2 more videos. One of them I know for sure is going to be very, very interesting to watch. So I hope you guys watch those. Let me know what you think about USA Eagles' chances in this video in the comments below. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching my video. Love your support, and I'll see you on the pitch.